Hello everybody, it's Dave Duford here at Final Expense Agent Mentor, where I help everybody who wants to actually get out and work sell more insurance. So the reason I'm doing this video today is to basically teach you the lesson, do as I say, not as I do. What we'll specifically be talking about today is a brand new lead piece that I put my mind to and created for myself. And I'm going to actually show you the whole thing, most of it at least. Some of the private information is going to be separate. But the idea behind this piece, I'm going to tell you why I did it, and really, as the title suggests, why the results were just not that good. And hopefully through my failure, you'll learn some valuable lessons on why really it's funny, the basics and the fundamentals really are what I try to teach in this business and really are something that you need to listen to. Because the fundamentals are fundamental after all. So where can I start with this? Let me start kind of from the beginning. So I have been playing with some lead pieces over the past couple of months to market to my existing book of business. So probably for the past 4 months, 5 months maybe, I have tried maybe 3 or 4 different lead drops to my existing book of business. And the strategy here was to go back to this book of business to continue to sell them more insurance. And on the whole, it's worked out fantastically. It's been exceptionally well. It's worked exceptionally well. And I can't say enough about why one should always work their existing book of business. However, this time around, I tried up a new lead piece that was completely different than what I was doing. So let me tell you what I was doing, and let me actually show you what I am using or have used most recently, and then I'm going to break apart why it didn't work as well as I thought it would. So what I've been using is essentially the same kind of lead card that you probably already use as a final expense agent. So these leads say on them, reference kind of the same language. I don't have an actual sample in front of me, sorry about that, but it mentions the fact of who they have their insurance with currently, and that there may be new options for them. Send the card back, and then I will respond. So it's the same process of replying. It's the same process of sending the card out. There's nothing inherently too unique or different from it. The only exception to it is that I'm mailing my existing list of customers. My results there have been great. I've had probably an average of 3 to 4% response rate. That's high, guys, because I'm mailing my own list. And what you'll find out here, it actually should have been a lot higher than that had I known something that I wouldn't have known until I actually mailed out this piece. So I'm trying to, scrape at any sort of upside learning potential out of this failure. So you'll hear more about why that piece was really, really good and better than I thought and I learned it was a lot better when I screwed up this one in particular. So that's what I was doing. I've dropped that a couple of times. I've gotten great results each time. But I wanted to change it up this time. So let me actually show you here what I sent out. And before I do, I'm going to cover up some stuff here because this is actually an envelope I got return addressed that was undeliverable. So let me kind of just hide all this private stuff for my clients here. Hopefully you understand. This is all live on the spot, so I forgot to do this particular portion. Okay, so I'm actually doing what's called an actual live mail-out envelope, okay? So this went directly to my client base in a live stamp. You see that, this side right here, handwritten envelope, and with a letter inside. So this is supposedly, and I believe it, is going to give you a better deliverability and open rate, really more the open rate, than just a regular spam message. When I say spam, I mean, we're talking about what we do, right? It's not like some letter. But when you see something like this, it's a handwritten piece of mail. Almost virtually all of those pieces of mail get open. So my thought process is, well, if I can guarantee that 99% of these people will open this, then I'm bound, right, to have a really good response rate where I would imagine a lot of people are throwing the junk mail away. So, so when they tear it open, they're going to get this little letter in here, and I'm going to actually show you the letter, but I'm just kind of doing this for theatrics. So they get the letter here, they get this thing in the back, and they get the whole thing, and we go from there. So let me actually pull up the letter here. Give me 1 second while I bring it up. actually want to show you the actual letter that I used here. And I've kind of truncated it just a bit so I can keep some things private. So let me pull this up here, make sure I got everything here. Okay, good. So you should see my desktop now. So what you're looking at is this lead piece that I used. So I'm just going to briefly go through it and just to explain how it works. You see I included a picture of me and my family, and then also this is the headline here, and then we worked right down into here. So this had their name in here inserted, and then the company they had it with. I just had that for the sake of this video. And the offer here was to see if you're interested in learning more about my new and affordable life insurance and cancer insurance plans available today. So we'll get back to that in a minute. Then you can see I explain how it works, that they may be able to get a better plan for a better price, and then it's good if you're on fixed income. And then I mentioned a low price potential for cancer insurance, and then sell it a little tiny bit. And then go ahead and make the offer of what they need to do to contact me. I put my number down there, and then tell them to leave a voicemail if they don't reach me, and then it's blah, 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 same thing. So that's pretty much it. If you like this lead piece, you can go back and watch it on your own time. But I just wanted to quickly run through this. Let me get my notes back up here so I can start talking through this. So, okay, so here's what happened. So this wasn't a bad piece in the sense that I didn't make any sales. I made sales. I've still got a deal to go do tomorrow with a cancer insurance potential for a sale, and then also an upgrade on some life insurance. So it's not that this piece was bad. At this point, I've about broken even. So now it's considerably expensive to drop mail and then have somebody hire out the handwriting and the stamps on there. It was very expensive. It probably cost approximately 2.5 to 3 times more than your regular lead piece. So maybe even 4 times as much. So you can get the idea is that there was a significantly higher cost here. My thoughts were, well, so what? We'll try it out. Maybe I'll get more people to read it and therefore respond. But you see, that wasn't the case. It wasn't the case at all. I've only made a few sales from this. And what I'm going to do in this, and I think this is going to be really valuable for you guys, because there's not many circumstances where one can prove the fundamentals through an explanation of when a mistake or a failure is done. So this is really good for you guys to really just, if you look at it through the lens of understanding why the fundamentals work the way they do, this will make a lot of sense, and this will be very valuable to you. Because this is a pretty good piece. It's creative. It's an interesting piece, but it is not the fundamental approach to doing this business. It's not a direct mail piece that's just vanilla. And I know a lot of you, like me, think, well, geez, these leads are so vanilla. How can they be so effective so consistently? Why don't we do something more elaborate, kind of like what I did, which isn't even that elaborate, but it's much more specific. And why? And how could you not get better results? That's the natural process of thinking here. Well, this is great for you because my failure is your learning opportunity. And so what I think you'll learn from this is why these vanilla lead cards are just so effective. So let's start first of all why I think this lead piece failed. So the first one is there's multiple offers instead of one. So what I mean by this is that if you recall the lead piece here, the lead piece specifically said the offer was for possibly a new plan for affordable life insurance. Hey Sam, thanks for joining, man. Or cancer insurance. Now you may be thinking, well, how can that be confusing? It's not. It's a 2-page letter. It's in big type, so it's not some large offer. But if you know anything about marketing, the more simplified your offer is, the more effective your results are going to be. What a lot of people do, and what I think I did incidentally in this lead piece, is that I muddied the water. I made it a little bit more confusing as to decide on what the person was interested in. When I offered both products as being a potential source of interest, it may have caused people to think, well, I don't know if I want the cancer and the life insurance, I don't know. And maybe they just gave it some thought, put the card down or put the letter down, and then never came back to it. That's what a lot of people do. So I really anticipated more response because I've never mailed anything out about cancer insurance per se. So I was kind of curious to see where this was going to go. So I think one problem here was I should have simplified the offer. I should have made the lead piece specifically about cancer insurance or I should have made the lead piece specifically about life insurance. It should have been one or the other, and when there's multiple offers in there, what you're going to find is that you're going to have poor results. And it's funny, I'm sitting here thinking about the fact that I did multiple offers. Literally like 4 or 5 years ago, I did a typical lead piece with a business card reply where I offered final expense and Medicare on the card. And I only got out of 1,000 people that we mailed to 6 cards back. And I thought, man, this is great. It's very specific. They check the box off. What are they interested in? And they were just the same. I mean, I set a couple of appointments, but they were really, the quality wasn't even that much different. So the point here is that what's great about these vanilla, if we're going back, remember, reinforcing why we market the way we do. The great thing about these vanilla direct mail lead cards that we use is that they have one direction that they go in. And it's final expense insurance, state-regulated burial plans, whatever the verbiage is on your card. It is not life insurance or mortgage protection insurance or cancer insurance or something else. It is a one-direction path that we're sending these people to go down to express interest in potentially buying something. This cannot be overstated enough. When you've got one direction in one product, it leads to one, or at least it leads to a less potentially confusing conclusion. So I think the takeaway here is with your vanilla cards, this is why they work so well, because it's one offer and you know what you're going to, you know why you're sending it back, and there's no confusion or, you know, more thought process than necessary in sending it back. Okay, so now this was a big one. This is one of the things I mentioned earlier, why the response rates on those other leads I did a couple of months ago were so high, and why they probably were a lot higher. So what happens when you use the lead house is that you never see the actual, like these cards here, let me show you again. So you see the yellow on here. This is because we tried mailing it off to this particular person, and oh, it said she's deceased on there. Uh-oh. It said that she mailed the card back, and you know, they said they weren't there. They don't live there. Something, they're dead. They moved. They're unfindable. Whatever. So when you buy leads from a mail house, you don't get those back. But when you mail these off and you have the return address as your home, you're going to get those mailers back. And I never gave it much thought, but what ended up happening, I've got a whole stack of letters. I probably have 200 or 300, which is crazy, but this is business over the last 5 or 6 years that I've been keeping track of my business. So I've had literally up to 300 letters. It may not be that much, but probably is. Letters that were returned to me. And if you think about the cost component, you know, that's several $100s wasted, at least on this campaign. But on the other campaigns, the crazy thing is I was getting a 4% response rate at one point off of basically only 80%, maybe 70, about 80% that were actually alive or actually deliverable. So if you do the math on that, it's probably closer to, oh, I don't know, the response rates are probably closer to 5-6%. Maybe my math's a little off there, but it was a lot higher with the actual list of people who were still living in the house that I wrote them up in the policy on. So that's what's crazy. So maybe another reason why this failed is because, you know, the cost components were out of line. This is a minor issue, but it's really interesting because in mailing, you want to make sure you've got updated addresses, and you're mailing off, you know, this information. People are actually going to receive it. Totally didn't even cross my mind because I've done all these other mailings and I saw the response rates. And I thought, okay, these are fine, but there was all this hidden cost that wasn't going out or I wasn't accounting for. But now I know, and so now I'm going to scrub my list before I end up sending it to my vendor again to drop the old vanilla cards to my list when I do that again. So that didn't help a lot. I just didn't reach a lot of these people. And how can you prevent that from happening? I mean, the only thing you can do is call these people up, get their information updated. You know, this is what you would do if you're going to rely on a lead campaign via direct mail on a more longer-term basis. So one thing that may have been a problem here. Number 3, overworked mailing lists. So this is another thing that could be, I gave this some consideration. So this is the 4th mailer I've done to my mailing list, I believe. And over the last 5 months or so. So I have hit these people hard over the past couple of months in an attempt to try to sell them. The first month or two, especially when you do a new campaign, if it's effective, it will be really effective, and it was. I sold a ton of insurance. I made a huge multiple of my initial investment, and it was all people to already I sold to, and I added more coverage onto. So, but then the response rates kind of went down the second and third time, and so by the time I sent this out, I'm wondering now, I thought, well, the rationale is this is a different lead. Different people are going to respond to this differently because it's not the vanilla lead. Plus, there may be more people opening it. But this may not have been the case, too. This is another factor to consider is, you eventually will burn out a list if you're mailing them information, or they'll just stop being as responsive if you do it in a very close fashion. When that happens depends. Sometimes you can have a responsive list for a long time. Sometimes you got to change the offer up. You got to do things differently. So it may be that I don't know. You just don't know. It's kind of a sense. Maybe I overworked the list and I didn't mail them enough. So this kind of relates to your vanilla leads. I think that it's really important to rotate areas every 3 to 4 months anyway, meaning don't hit the same place every month, 2 months. You will have diminished response rates. People will stop mailing as often. Now, if you're going to mail an area over and over again on a very regular basis, that's less than 3 months at a time, switch to mailer piece up. There are a lot of people who get these cards constantly, and some of them will read them that will respond to one of these cards and won't respond to others. So you'll get sometimes different responders to it, but sometimes when you hit a lead piece enough or hit an area enough with the same kind of lead piece over and over, you start getting duplicate responses. And so I think it's effective to change up your mailer and not hit the same area over and over again. Number 4, call to action lowers response rate. So this I think I mentioned already. Oh, no, I didn't. So on this lead piece again, I'll show it to you guys that are just popping on and are just getting on here. On this lead piece, give me 1 second to pull this over. On this lead piece here, you notice there wasn't anything they were sending in. This is just a number for them to call and leave me a voicemail so that I could get back at them at my convenience. So again, I don't know what the answer is. Is it better to send back a card or is it better to call? These are things that one can debate all day long. All I know is that based on my experience, obviously with the fundamentals, right? Your vanilla direct mail cards don't send back, don't have you call an 800 number. They have them send a card back. So there must be some logic behind that, right? And what you'll find out in marketing is that many of the times you think you got a really good idea and it's already been tried out a number of times. And what you're probably working is the outcome of all the trials in marketing and tribulations to come up with what is available now, which is these seemingly simple vanilla lead cards, but are really extremely powerful. So it may have been an issue for these people to call. Again, I don't know. Again, I'm sending them a letter, if you think about it, to where most of these people are used to replying by mail. They may not be the kind to call up and talk to somebody live. They may just want to send a card back. And they did in the past. That's how I've written most of this business up. So it does stand to follow. People tend to follow a behavioral direction that's similar. So we could have one of these circumstances to where, we're in a circumstance where, I'm not playing to what they normally do and what's customary for them. So kind of summarizing up here, some takeaways here for you guys. You would think a lead card like this, or a lead that's fancy, that is well written, has some facts in it, it has a picture on it, it's color. You would think that this kind of stuff would necessarily attract somebody more to responding, that would intrigue people more, that would be great as a lead piece. But here's the thing, the fancy leads are just not necessarily as effective as the ugly and boring lead pieces. I really think this is true for final expense. Again, this is something I've learned, and clearly I don't mind telling you, I like trying out stuff, and I felt comfortable doing it because it was a small sample size. I've done really well working my list. It's a great sample to try a new lead piece like this on because your response rates are better and you're going to sell more. But it's funny because where I'm going with this is that what you're working right now, really, final expense has been around a long time. People have marketed for final expense a long time, and people have put in probably hundreds of thousands of dollars, if not millions collectively, trying to refine this particular lead piece to the where it is today. And when you look at one of these lead pieces that just get mailed out by literally everybody with slight alterations, this is where it's at, and this is why it's being used, because it is very, very effective. It has the right balance of people responding and the right balance of interest in life insurance. One thing that you'll learn as a new agent in this business is you cannot create a lead piece. Maybe you can, and if it's out there, nobody will tell you. But it's very, very rare to create a lead piece that does all the selling for you, where all you have to do is pick up a check. It just doesn't exist. The people are going to have questions. They're going to have procrastination. They're going to not necessarily bite at the first thing they see. They're going to have concerns and restraints. And a lot of that is just simply overcome by a face-to-face appointment. That's why we show up and we sell them, because a lot of this stuff has resistance from people. And here's the thing. If there was a way to completely eliminate the selling process, which means eliminate the agent, all insurance companies would be doing this. They would have wage-earning, and hourly employees taking orders. They wouldn't have salespeople they pay, literally the first year's worth of premiums, if not higher, to get them motivated to go sell these clients insurance with their companies. So you really have to think about this. This is something I failed. One of the reasons I failed out is I created one of these leads really early on, because I've always loved marketing, and I think I'm okay at it. And I broke even on that too. But it just wasn't nearly as effective as just a boring old standard lead piece. So the main reason I put this video together, again, just to kind of summarize, is that you need to follow fundamentals. You don't have to make this mistake. I don't look at this so much as a mistake, but you don't have to be put in a position to where you have to create some kind of marketing campaign that's unique and untested and put your money on the line to potentially lose money and not make sales. You don't have to do this in final expense. It is completely unnecessary. Literally all the risk and experimentation has been handled for you. All you need to do is just follow the system and put it into force. And the reason I put this video again together is to show you in proof, in action, why this is the case. That literally a cold mailing drop to people who you don't sell to works a lot better, potentially, than what I just did over here. Literally, for what I dropped in expenses, I could have gotten back at least 80 direct mail leads, as opposed to maybe the handful of business that I did. And out of those 80, I should at least write 15 to 20, and that's playing it safe. And I would have written a ton more premium than I did off of these leads, even though they're my customer base. So it's profound in its simplicity. It's so complex, or it's so simple it's complex. At least that's how I tend to screw it up. So again, I want you to take away the main point here, if anything, is just follow this system. Again, you don't get many opportunities to see why you should follow the direct mail system as it's prescribed. Why? Because people like me have been doing this experimentation for years and have arrived at this conclusion that this particular system works just fine. So if you like this video, I do hope that you please subscribe if you haven't already and give me a thumbs up. Also, if you are interested in the mentorship program and you'd like to work with me and not use these leads, but actually use a direct mail program that works very well, is very consistent, that gets great results for agents that put in the time and effort, go to my website. It's feagentmentor.com. Click the contact box, send me a message, and we can begin a conversation to show you how my particular program works. If you've got any questions or comments about this lead, or if you'd like to provide your input, I'm more than happy to include it. You can just leave a comment below. I enjoy conversing with my audience. Other than that, guys, ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for listening. I do hope that you have a fantastic weekend, and we will see you on Monday. Take care.